to that. First and foremost, what the hell is wrong with you people? Why in the hell does any loss in anything warrant death threats? Whether they're real or bullshit or whatever. I mean, obviously they're bullshit. But why would you do that? Okay? I'm an Oklahoma fan, and I find this disgusting. Disgusting. These kids do not play for us. We don't own this football team. We don't. And if you're not going to support them in some way, I mean, shit, it's one loss. And, you know, I did a lot of this yesterday because I was angry yesterday that Dylan Gabriel's getting all the freaking blame from a bunch of people. And these are Oklahoma fans, and it's ridiculousness there, too. This is a guy that had 330 passing yards and 4 touchdowns and added 60 rushing yards. He almost had 400 total yards. And we're blaming him. And welcome back to the Hall of Fame College Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Watkins, running solo today. But if you love college football, you're definitely in the right place. So before you forget, smash that red subscriber button, like our videos. And don't forget to ring that bell so that you do not miss one moment of the Hall of Fame College Football Podcast. Hey, folks, this was a crazy, crazy week in college football this week, particularly for the Big 12 Conference. A lot of, well, and actually all over the country, there was just a lot of drama, a lot of upsets to the hierarchy of the sport, and not the least of which came in the Big 12 Conference with powerhouses, or well, one of them was a powerhouse anyway. The other one acts like one. Powerhouses programs, Oklahoma and Texas, both losing their season opener, Big 12 season opener, that is. So that's what we're going to get into first in our show. Also coming, Iowa State drops a nail biter in Ames this weekend to visiting Baylor. And we see an uncharacteristic meltdown from Iowa State head coach Matt Campbell over a call against his defense. Texas Tech is fined $50,000 by the Big 12 for its fans storming the field following its win in overtime over visiting Texas. Also, Sonny Dykes leads his new team, Texas Christian, into his old stomping ground of SMU, and gets a win over the Mustangs, over the Ponies, in pretty convincing fashion, actually, overall. Also, you got national surprise Kansas, who went to 4-0 on the season. This is a team who was picked to go maybe get 2 wins at most. The over-under in Vegas was 1.5. They now are 4-0 on the season. They have a bona fide Heisman hopeful in Jalen Daniels, and they beat the visiting Duke Blue Devils in Lawrence by 8, 35-27, with Jalen Daniels having another spectacular day. We are going to start off in Lubbock, though, with the visiting Texas Longhorns taking it on the chin again, losing another fourth quarter lead to the Texas Tech Red Raiders and first-year head coach Joey McGuire, who took the lead, allowed Texas to go down, get into field goal range to tie it, to get it into overtime. With the under 30 seconds left, they started that drive. They get the field goal down there, and then in the overtime, you have an uncharacteristic fumble by Bijan Robinson, which the Red Raiders turned into 3 points and a win. It was their first at home over the Longhorns since 2009, the Michael Crabtree game, where you saw him tiptoe the sidelines, get in there, and knock off the visiting Longhorns and Mac Brown. This is a big win for this program. You got to say it. This is a big win for the Texas Tech program. But I think that the main thing that you get out of this, and congratulations to Tech. But this is Texas' second blown fourth quarter lead this season, and it's fifth under second-year head coach Steve Sarkisian. 4 of those have been double-digit variety. And this has the Vultures, as Matt Galatzan of Fan Nation Longhorns Country put it, swirling overhead and hoping to start picking at a soon-to-be carcass that is Steve Sarkisian. Apparently he is in danger of losing his job just 1 year and 4 games into his tenure as head coach. If they were to lose this weekend, the rumor is that's going around that if they were to lose this weekend to visiting West Virginia, he is very much in danger of being fired before the weekend is up. Do we feel like this is real, unreal? Is it something that should happen? Should it already be in jeopardy in view of the fact of where the program has been basically since Mac Brown left? And that was a stupid move for them to fire him. Look at what he's still doing at a place like UNC. Is it too quick a move? Listen, my contention is going to be this. Is it too quick a move? Probably. Would it surprise me if it happens? Absolutely not. This is Texas's jam, the knee-jerk reaction. It's their jam. It's what they do. Whether or not it should be in jeopardy, I'm not one of the people that thought he should have got the job in the first place, to be honest with you. In fact, I think that Sark's he's a half-ass coach. That's what he is. He's won half of his games. He was head coach at Washington. He won just about half of his games. He was head coach at USC. He won just about half of his games and lost a lot of important ones. And, obviously the drinking issues and stuff that was going on, that got him kicked out of there a little quicker than what you would have expected. But is this too quick in Austin? Probably. But does that make it a whole lot different than how it usually is in Austin? No. This is what they do. Tom Herman was just getting a team built there. It looked, they'd beaten Oklahoma once. They got to the Big 12 championship. The next year they sputter a little bit. They don't, they finish 8-4, and he gets the axe for Sark. I contend that was a stupid move. I thought that it was a dumb move to start with. I definitely think it's proven to be a dumb move now. But if you're going to fire the guy, and this is, just me talking, if you're going to fire Sark, you should have probably already done it. You shouldn't have let him get these, or you shouldn't have ever brought him in, because now he's bringing in guys like Arch Manning is in this next recruiting class. He's already committed. Number 1 quarterback in the country, according to Rivals 247. There's people that don't think that that's the case. But listen, right now, as it stands on 247, these guys are in the top 5 of recruiting. And I just don't understand why you would mess with that. I just don't. So, right now, in fact, they're number 2. They're number 2 in recruiting. If you get rid of Sark, you probably lose the better part of this recruiting class. You would almost assuredly lose Arch Manning. Quinn Ewers is probably walking out the door behind him. No telling. So should it be something they do? Probably not. If you're a Texas fan, you got to be hoping. Although I think it's the Texas fans that are basically swirling and wanting him gone. Actually, according to the article was posted on Fan Nation Longhorns Country by Matt Galatzan. It's difficult to ignore the numbers regarding the Texas Longhorns losing leads under Steve Sarkisian. Through 16 games, he is 7-9, with 5 of those losses coming despite holding leads in the fourth quarter. 4 of those holding double-digit leads at some point in the game. Okay, just this season, they blew a fourth-quarter lead against then number 1 Alabama and a 10-point second-half lead over Tech this past Saturday. Inevitably, as is the typical way in Texas, any Texas loss since the beginning of the social media era, vultures have again started to descend upon the Longhorns. More specifically, Sarkisian has once again become the subject of ire of the Texas fan base. So does he deserve it? He's saying yes at the start of this article. Never mind the fact that they lost Ewers in that Alabama game when he was playing well. Never mind the fact that they've got some other injuries. And honestly, listen, defensively, they're better. They brought in Gary Patterson after he got fired from TCU a year ago. I think that you're starting to see some improvements myself. Now, as an Oklahoma fan, I hope he stays forever. I got to just say that because I don't think that he's ever going to be the guy. But what I would say is how quick can you expect to turn it around when you have this kind of turnover year after year after year? How are you going to build a culture? I don't think that you really can. I don't think that you really can. And so, but this is the Longhorn way. So it doesn't really surprise me that he would be under the hot seat. I think that somebody said on Twitter, and this was a very underrated statement, he was on the hot seat the second he got to Texas. That's how it is. They have enough money that they can afford whatever his buyout is, which I would imagine is going to be fairly large. Texas was not the only program looking to pick him up at that point when they hired him. So I'm guessing that his buyout will be big. They don't care about that at all. They're getting ready to go to the SEC. I think that if they feel like it's time for them to pull the plug on this thing, still have a little bit of time before you leave in 2024 to kind of rebuild and get them ready for the SEC. Again, I don't know that that's the case. I don't think that that's the right move. But then again, I don't think that they make the right move very often. So would it surprise me if they do it? No. I would guess. Listen, and they should beat West Virginia this week. So I would say that if they lose this, I could definitely see him being in a deep trouble. Okay. The week after that comes the Oklahoma game. Do you fire a coach going into the Red River rivalry game, the Red River shootout? I guess there's a couple of ways you could look at that. Maybe it fires up the team. Maybe it torpedoes the team. I don't know. They do have a calming force in Gary Patterson. Were they to do this, I guess he would probably become the interim head coach. He's been a head coach for a number of years. He's played Oklahoma plenty. He's beaten Oklahoma. He knows how to put a team together. This is a good coach. I think that he's been the difference on that defense because look at what they did against Alabama. They shut them down for the better part of the game. So, again, I think it's kind of crazy that we're even talking about this at this point, albeit not that surprising, I would say. Not that surprising. Tell us what you think, though. I would like to know, is this job really in jeopardy now? Is this something that you would be worrying about a week from now if, indeed, the West Virginia game goes and they were to lose it? Let me know on Twitter at BirdieManDub. That's at BirdieMandub. Or send the show an email. It's soundoff@hofmedia.us. That's soundoff, SOUNDOFF @hofmedia.us. You can send us an email there, or hey, hit us up in the description below. You can always check us out now. We have an audio version of the podcast that is going out to anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, whether it's Apple Podcast, or Spotify, Google, Amazon, or Anchor FM. If you want to support the show, we have a great way of doing it now. We have teamed up with Fanatics, the number one retailer of fan gear worldwide, fanatics.com, hofmedia.us/fanatics. That's hofmedia.us/fanatics. Go to the bottom of the page, click the blue Fanatics logo, and it will take you directly to the website where you can shop as normal and help us out by giving us a little commission for whatever purchases you may make. Listen, guys, that's a great way to do it. I know people buy stuff on Fanatics all the time anyway. I'm guilty of it myself. Gotten a few different packages in the mail just in the past few days of my gear, and it's a great way to not only help us, but up your wardrobe game a little bit. So check it out. Again, hofmedia.us/fanatics. Go to the bottom of the page, click the blue Fanatics logo, and you will go to the store, shop as normal, get great deals, help out the show a little bit. If you want us to continue to bring you amazing content, we need some help as well. Thanks a lot. All right, next up, Oklahoma also lost its season opener, much to my chagrin. Its Big 12 conference opener against the Kansas State Wildcats at home Saturday night in Norman at the Palace. Second time in 3 seasons, they lose 41-34 as Kansas quarterback Adrian Martinez went wild. He had 148 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns to go with 234 passing yards and another touchdown to lead the Wildcats after really playing pretty pedestrian football for the first 3 weeks of the season. This has got the ire of many Oklahoma fans up. There have even been reports coming from players on the team. Braden Willis, tight end, said that a group of fans tagged some OU players in a group message on Twitter and made death threats following the loss. With this, of course, has triggered anger from numerous fans, and some of them have questioned whether or not this happened, if it was actual OU fans that did it, or if it was fans of another program trying to stir up shit. I would just say this when it comes to that. First and foremost, what the hell is wrong with you people? Why in the hell does any loss in anything warrant death threats? Whether they're real or bullshit or whatever. I mean, obviously they're bullshit. But why would you do that? Okay? I'm an Oklahoma fan, and I find this disgusting. Disgusting. These kids do not play for us. We don't own this football team. We don't. And if you're not going to support them in some way, I mean, shit, it's one loss. And, I did a lot of this yesterday because I was angry yesterday that Dylan Gabriel's getting all the freaking blame from a bunch of people. And these are Oklahoma fans, and it's ridiculousness there, too. This is a guy that had 330 passing yards and 4 touchdowns and added 60 rushing yards. He almost had 400 total yards. And we're blaming him and Jeff Lebby, not the defense that gave up 509 yards of total offense to Kansas State. But this is even worse, what we're talking about now, that you're going to get and go and make death threats to, I'm assuming players on the defense that didn't make stops. I'm assuming possibly Gabriel, because of the fact that you've got so many idiots out there making stupid remarks about him. I don't know. I don't know where it's coming from. And hey, you know what, folks, maybe it could be coming from another fan base of a bunch of idiots. But I'm going to tell you this, in view of the fact of what I saw from Saturday night and yesterday, it wouldn't surprise me if this came from Oklahoma fans, and it makes me sick. What the hell is wrong with you folks? Why? Why would you do this? It's one loss. First off, it's one loss. And as I said in the video yesterday, the last 4 times that Oklahoma has lost its Big 12 opener, it went on to win the conference title. The last time that Oklahoma was undefeated, 1975. They've won national titles in between. Get it together and realize that this is ridiculous. There's still a lot ahead of them. And on top of that, to even have the expectations, and I kept saying coming into the season that expecting them to go to the playoff or to win the conference or anything. I mean, there's some expectation there on my part as well, but I got to tell you, a playoff, I would be super surprised. It would be gravy if it happened. I don't see it. I could even see them losing as many as 3 and 4 games and it still being considered a pretty successful season under a first-year coach. First-year ever head coach in Brent Venables. Yes, he's a great defensive coach. Yes, he's great. It looks like he's great at building a foundation and a way of doing things within this program. I'm excited about it, but I do not have those I think that that's a lot to expect out of a bunch of kids less than a year since they got left at the altar, if you want to call it that, or whatever you want. You just basically ran out on by Lincoln Riley and a bunch of players that were on this team a year ago. Did Brent Venables, Jeff Lebby, all of his assistants do a great job in refilling some of those holes? Absolutely. Absolutely. They put together an amazing class in under a month before signing day. They have continued to put together an amazing class since then. As of right now, Oklahoma sits 6th in recruiting. They have gotten Jackson Arnold, 5-star quarterback that won the Elite 11, has agreed to come to Oklahoma. You've got 5-star defensive player Adebawari out of Kansas City, Missouri. This guy was amazing. You've got a 4-star receiver in Jacquez Petaway, who everybody thought was going to go to Texas. I mean, this is, they picked up another amazing offensive tackle, Caden Green, who's a 4-star. You've got Makari Vickers from a safety out of Quincy, Florida. He's getting Florida kids that are coming. I mean, listen, it's one thing to expect that they're going to be really good coming up in the future because listen, if things continue the way they are, you've already seen an improvement in the defense for the first, 3 weeks of the season. They definitely had a step back the other night. I would say that. But I can't tell you that I don't see the future being bright here. What I don't have is unrealistic expectations about what they're going to do in year one. Okay? As far as Dylan Gabriel goes, is he Caleb Williams who went to USC with Lincoln? No. No, he's not. Is he damn serviceable? Absolutely. And I'll tell you this, he's a lot better than Spencer Rattler was. I'm glad Spencer left. I got to tell you, I'm glad he's gone. This guy runs circles around Spencer Rattler and has the, people on his team love him. I don't think that was the case with Spencer. In fact, it seems like that's guaranteed wasn't the case. So I don't know who you think was going to be better for this season coming in other than a guy like Dylan Gabriel. But, we're talking about a guy who coming in already had 8,000 yards and 70 freaking touchdown passes, playing for UCF. Who else do you need? Who else? And it wasn't the offense that had a problem. They man, no interceptions, 4 touchdowns, almost 400 total yards. When you give up 500 and you're putting up 34 points, Venables said it himself, you should be able to win the game. Okay? But none of this matters whenever we start talking about death threats. I think that people like you that would do something like that should stop watching football, for God's sakes. Because I think it's become a little more important than it should be. Just spitballing here. Get it together. My Lord. And realize that this is a work in progress. It should be a work in progress. And if we continue, the only way that you could screw up this freaking recruiting class that's coming in, shit like that. Who the hell wants to go in to a program, into a place where it's that ridiculous that if you lose a game? And by the way, Kansas State has beaten Oklahoma 2 out of the last 3 years. 2 out of the last 3 years and 3 out of the last 5, I believe it is. This is a team that routinely beats Oklahoma. A lot more routinely than Texas lately. Listen, did they play? Could they have played better? Sure. Should they have? Probably. Can you understand them having a setback? Yeah, kind of. I can. What I can't understand is how you would ever do something like that. Ever. I think it's absolutely ridiculous, and I don't ever want to see that from fans. I think that is what makes sports kind of unbearable sometimes, folks. Kind of unbearable. Is for people to act the way that it's that damn important, because you know what? It isn't. And these are kids we're talking about. Unbelievable. So, please, keep this within perspective. First and foremost, if I'm, as an Oklahoma fan, I would much rather see them lose this game now than lose one towards the end of the season and get them knocked out of the chance to win the conference title or again, maybe even go to the playoff. I'm not saying I expected that anyway. I'm just saying, if we're going to have an early season loss, it's much better than a late season one if you're going to be in contention. You could be like Oklahoma State and lose, the ones that matter down at the end. That's what it could be like. Sheesh. Okay. Tell me what you think, folks. You can say, but I'm telling you, if you come at me about this and you start telling me that it's okay for anybody to act this way or to be going, and don't come at me with the Dillon Gabriel crap either, because I don't want to hear it. I'll come right back at you for that one. Do not. I'm not going to sit here and blame any one particular player. I think that if anything, the coaching staff failed to get them ready, just as Venable said. The defensive staff did not do its job. They let Adrian Martinez run wild on them. I mean, we're talking about a guy who coming into this looked awful. They had 10 points against Tulane a week ago. 10. He runs wild on them. You got 3rd and 17. And by the way, when it comes to Dillon Gabriel on that, the last 2 drives that he was on, he marched them down the field and got touchdowns out of them. And in between, you had a 3rd and 17 on Kansas State. They would have ended up having a punt. All you got to do is make a stop there. Instead, you give up 40 yards to him, and he gets into range to score again, and he does. Making that last drive with under 2 minutes left, pretty much, you got to score and hope that you can get an onside kick, which is almost impossible, and maybe you can tie it. This was not a Dillon Gabriel problem. So don't come at me with that shit. I don't want to hear it. Okay? All right. But let us know what you think about the whole deal. Let us know what you think coming in after the first week. Who's the best team in the Big 12? Who do you think is going to win this thing? Love to hear what you think. All right. Let's talk again about, don't forget to like and subscribe, folks. If you like the content that we're bringing you, hit that like button. It helps us so much on the algorithm. That's free. It doesn't cost you anything. Hit the subscriber button. That helps us a ton as well. We can get monetized just by having enough likes and having enough subscribers with our hours that we can get some, stuff that it'll never cost you anything. All you have to do is subscribe. So please do us a favor. Hit that like button. Hit that subscriber button. Go ahead and ring that bell so that every time that we come on, you're going to get a chance to see everything, the stuff that we're putting out here. And we put out a lot of great content. Hey, look, guys, the last couple of weeks, we've come up with some new segments to our show. We have the under the radar high school phenoms that we've been doing. Listen, the guy that the kid that we featured first in the first episode of that, Darian Holmes from San Antonio Warren, the day after that, on Saturday night, they're playing Harlan, and he goes nuts. 19 receptions, 279 yards, a touchdown receiving, a passing touchdown, and he even had a 2-point conversion reception. That's 20 total receptions for the game, 19 official ones. and 20. And he came in with 22 leading up to that and 7 touchdowns. He adds 2 more touchdowns to his total and 279 yards along with those 19. Unbelievable game. They lost in overtime to Harlan, but what a freaking football game. I got to tell you, I watched that online. Thank you guys for an amazing show. We absolutely, wow. But, talk about a guy who deserves his shot. I mean, my goodness. This 6'3", 190 pounds is Darian Holmes. He's a senior. This is his first year to really get to play. He was a JV tight end a year ago, so he did not play on the varsity. He's not ranked, not rated on 247 or Rivals or anywhere else. He ought to be. I'm talking to another guy with an underrated or under the radar player in Tennessee yesterday who saw the segment. He said that if he was playing out there, he'd be an SEC player right now. If I'm Texas, if I'm UTSA, don't let this guy get out of town. Don't let this guy get out of town. Okay. Take a look at that, though. We're doing some build-up on our website as well. You'll hear more about that in the future. This week we will have another one. I'm going to announce the who we're going to have on this week coming up here shortly. Now, next segment, let's take a look at, so Iowa State drops a nail-biter to visiting Baylor on Saturday in a game that saw a pretty uncharacteristic meltdown by Iowa State head coach Matt Campbell, who, kind of threw a fit over a call against his defense, against his cornerback. We're going to go ahead and just show you this. Let's show you I'm going to show you the video here. So here's the call coming up right here.
Number 1, defense. This is one of those rules.
So it's a weird rule change, but it's supposed to be for if you cut below the waist on this one if it's a defensive player. Obviously, he wasn't below his waist there. But check out Matt. Losing his mind.
Personal foul penalties and targeting on the opening drive helped Baylor find the end zone, and now a fresh step down.
Turn that down a little bit. Look at him, man. He's losing his mind, though. And generally, you don't really see Matt doing this kind of stuff. Wow. Just wow. Look at him. And look, if you look at the replay on it, it's pretty clear that he didn't ever get below the guy's knees. In fact, he hit him up around the shoulder pad area. Look at him stomping up and down. He's losing his mind. Hey, I love to see it. I love to see stuff like this. That be fiery, man. That's all right. Be fiery about it. That's all right. But I mean, I think if slides down, but he never knocked him off of his feet. I mean, I guess he loses his footing, but he wasn't below the legs at any point. Pretty bad call. And again, I don't necessarily blame Matt for having, I don't blame Matt for flipping out. I mean, it was a bad call. I think it means he cares. I like to see that in a head coach. It's fine with me. It was pretty funny. Why not? But in that game, obviously, you had, let's see, let's go through this a little bit. Sorry about that. In that game, you had a Baylor quarterback, Blake Shapen, was big in that game. He was 19 and 26 for 238 yards, 3 touchdowns, didn't turn the ball over. He'd been having some issues with turning the ball over coming in. Hunter Deckers did fall victim to the turnover a bit. He was 23 to 36 for 284 and 2 touchdowns, but he also threw 2 interceptions that probably proved to be the difference in this one. This is a game you could definitely see being very, very, very pivotal in who makes it to the conference title game. Or I mean, it could have even maybe been a preview for the conference title game. I think both of these teams are definitely in the mix for getting to it, particularly. And when you see that Oklahoma and Texas lost this week, one of them is going to lose again for sure next week because they're playing each other. And then you've got, Oklahoma State. If Baylor wins this game at Oklahoma State or against Oklahoma State this week in Waco, they're going to definitely be in the driver's seat for that. This is why they play the games, but that was a big win for Baylor over Iowa State, especially on the road in Ames after doing that. And this is all coming after 1 week after Matt Campbell leads Iowa State to its first win over in-state rival Iowa. So that's a big win, and a big bounce back for after Baylor having lost at BYU earlier in the season. What do you think of ISU's chances in the Big 12 race? I mean, especially coming off of this loss. What do you think of Baylor's? I mean, let us know. Again, hit us in the comments here on YouTube. You can also let me know on Twitter what you think. We like it if you do that. We want to answer questions for you. If you start doing this more, get into soundoff@hofmedia.us. That's our email address. It's soundoff@hofmedia.us. Send us a message in there. If you keep it clean enough, I might even read it out. So do that, or let us know. Send the show an email. Let us know on Twitter. That's BirdieManDub, BirdieManDub, DUB, @BirdieManDub on Twitter. You can hit me up directly. Is also on Twitter. It's Pinson_Bryce, @Pinson_Bryce on Twitter. So look, Friday we will have our next Under the Radar High School Football Phenom feature. I'll let you know who that's going to be here in the coming days, but we're looking forward to it. Another big-time player on a big-time team that should be getting looked at, I feel like. And so take a look at that coming up. If you know of a player that is being overlooked and is particularly seniors, we'll hear from juniors too as well. I actually had a guy on Twitter talk to me today from Celeste High School in Texas. Great little running back. I'd love to see him do some things. But look, he's a junior. He's going to have a little bit of time. He's getting invited into some of these schools to come and watch their games over the weekends. So it looks like he's probably going to be getting recruited. We want to make sure that we help those guys as well. But guys like Darian, he's a senior. This is it. Guys like the guy that we're talking about having this weekend, which I will announce. This is his senior season. This is it. And so not having a scholarship already in hand, that's a tough deal for these guys. And we want to make sure that these under the radar players that have a real opportunity to play and that should be playing somewhere do. When it comes to, as I said with Darian, I mean, we're talking about a guy, he had 19 freaking catches the other night, and nobody knows who he is really. They're starting to know who he is now, around San Antonio. But if you're Robert Traylor, the head coach at UTSA, I would be over there, coach, because it ain't going to be long until everybody knows who he is, and then maybe you don't get to keep him around, I would hope that you don't lose him to anyone other than a Big 12 or SEC school. That's for sure. So I'm hoping that they get on him. If he continues to play like this, he's not going to need our help because that'll happen. Anyway, that's what we're trying to do. So make sure you check that out every Friday at noon. The Under the Radar High School Football Phenoms every Friday at noon right here on our podcast and YouTube channel. Hey, let's talk a little bit about the decision this week for Oklahoma State to stop the annual Bedlam game with Oklahoma once the Sooners and Texas leave for the SEC. We're going to talk about that next right here on the show. Stand by. Hey, everybody. Jason Watkins, Hall of Fame College Football Podcast. Just wanted to remind you that the next time you want to go on Fanatics and get your gear, make sure you go onto our website first. That's hofmedia.us/fanatics. 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 You go on there, you can click the little button. It's a little blue Fanatics logo at the bottom. You're going to help. We're going to get a little small commission. You help us keep putting out content for you week after week. We enjoy doing it for you. We need a little help. We want to make sure that you can get your love too. I got a bunch of nice shirts in from Fanatics myself this week. So, I know everybody's going there. They've got, Fanatics, this is the big company. They have more, these guys have more merchandise for your team. And no matter what your team is or what sport they're playing, you're going to find it on Fanatics every time. Okay. Go on there, check them out. Great deals all the time just for using our link to go on there. All you do is click and shop as usual. You don't need a promo code. If you do, it'll be already on the screen for you there. They give it to you when you get there. So help us out. We'd appreciate it. Hey, welcome back to the Hall of Fame College Football Podcast. This is Jason Watkins. This is the second part of this week's recap on everything that happened in college football, particularly the Big 12. Folks, had a big weekend, man. You had two, what everybody considered were going to be Big 12 contenders drop their first game in conference play. They could still be contenders. I feel like they probably are, particularly Oklahoma. I would think that Texas is still with the way that they played against Alabama. You have to expect that they're a contender as well. Now, losing a game like this just goes to show you that they're not great at putting up with adversity. Losing a game like Texas Tech at Texas Tech could further that. So I could definitely see where you might possibly have Sark be in a little bit of trouble, particularly if they don't show that they can bounce back from this loss by getting a win next week. They did struggle with UTSA the week after losing to Alabama. For most of that game, they finally did pull away and win the game by 3 touchdowns. So not necessarily that they're toast, but you could definitely see that happening. Last year after the Red River game, they fell apart completely and lost basically the next 4 or 5 games in a row, and they led at the half of every one of them. They didn't win another game until the last one of the season. I believe it was against maybe Kansas State or I don't remember. Anyway, whatever it was not a good look for Sark in his first year. But I would contend again that to go ahead and fire him now, when with this recruiting class at number 2 in the country, that's a big move. That's a big move, even by standards of Texas, which we've said before, that's their jam. Knee-jerk reactions are the jam of the Texas alumni. So I wouldn't be that surprised, but I don't think that it would be a great move either. So, just saying. And I'm not even a Sark fan. I'm not a guy that believes a whole lot in Sark, but I'll tell you, I don't see that as a very smart move when you've got this kind of a recruiting class coming. I feel like, if anything, maybe he is moving them in the right direction, but you'll never know that if he doesn't get through the second year, Let's talk a little bit about the decision this week, as reported by the Dallas Morning News, as reported by basically, let's see. I know it's been reported a few different places. Chad Weiberg, a report recently told College Football Insider Brett McMurphy that he believes, let me just quote it, he believes continuing the series between Oklahoma State and Oklahoma presents, quote, logistical issues under the program's current scheduling structures. Logistical issues. Do tell. Of course, Oklahoma Athletic Director Joe Castiglione has told McMurphy as well that the Cowboys have shown no interest to schedule any future games in football. So we are moving on with filling OU's future non-conference openings with other programs. The coming SEC move has created multiple issues for the previously agreed upon non-conference schedules of the universities involved. My take, this is bullshit. Okay? This is bullshit. Here's what it really is. If you want to know the truth, I know that, okay, plain and simple, it's a BS excuse, okay? Just, look, and if you're Oklahoma State, everybody would respect you more if you just went ahead and admitted that you can't stand losing 14 of 17, which is basically how it's been the entirety of the series. They call it a rivalry. It's not a real rivalry. It's an ass whipping most of the time. from one team to the other. Big brother to little brother. It's just an ass kicking. Last year's win for Oklahoma State was their first in 10 years. First in 10 years. So I know that myself, and I feel like a lot of the state, I know that the state of Oklahoma gets up for this game every year. Whether you're a big football fan or not, you may not even have any allegiance to either school, but nobody looks away from this game every year. It's a huge game. Okay. So to not do that and to give, what Weiberg says, it presents logistical issues. What logistical issues? You're in town. You're in the same freaking state a few hours away. That's horse shit. Just because one team is in another conference, my feeling is this. They're tired of losing 14-17, and now they have an excuse to not have to anymore. They used to have to play the game because they're in the same conference. And now they don't have to. So that means 14 out of 17 years that they don't have to play Oklahoma and get their ass kicked. And maybe under their feelings, I feel like Oklahoma State looks at it as now we have a chance to maybe make the playoff and become what Oklahoma is. I think that's horseshit too, because I got to tell you, look, Gundy's been signaling this for a while. He's spent most of the summer and definitely Big 12 media days telling anybody who would listen how they shouldn't, that Texas and Oklahoma shouldn't be there and how they screwed over the conference, blah, 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 and being his little arrogant self when you don't win shit, he's being arrogant. But Gundy's been signaling this for a while. It's pretty clear that they celebrated a year ago the way that he celebrated last year in beating Oklahoma. It was like they tore down the goalposts in Stillwater over it. They tore down the goalposts. That's how very little it ever happens, But yet, the bottom line is, to me, they're sick of playing Oklahoma. They're sick of getting beat. As I said, 14. He's been there 17 years. He's won 3 times. 3. And how a coach can manage to make it through that amount of time. Not only did he still there, but he now has a perpetual 5-year contract that renews every year for 5 more years. So, there's not even – the guy hadn't even won a conference title. Hasn't won a conference title that also included you having to win a conference championship game. So he won the regular season. That don't matter. He didn't win the conference championship a year ago. He gets a gift win in the Oklahoma game, and then they choke it up the next week against Baylor, throwing 4 interceptions and then talking about lamenting how they lost by 6 inches at the end of the game. Okay, you lost by 6 inches at the end of the game, but if you didn't throw 4 interceptions, maybe you didn't need that 6 inches. You would have already won it. But this is what Oklahoma State does. They never win anything of significance. Never win a game when they have to make a big. A couple of years ago that they had a chance to get to the playoff. It may have been a few years from back, but they've always seemed to blow it against Oklahoma. Or even last year, they're undefeated going into Iowa State having a down year, and they get beat by Iowa State. And then they turn around and lose. They beat up on Baylor during the regular season, and then they end up losing the conference championship game and not getting to. They go to the playoff if they win that game. They go to the playoff. They don't win anything of significance, but I feel like that the feeling around Stillwater is that if they can win that game, or if they don't have to play Oklahoma anymore, now they're going to run the roost now that Texas and Oklahoma are leaving. I got news for you. Man. You don't have, first off, this Mike Gundy, for all the money he's got and all the job security that he has, which is befuddling to me, he's not the coach that Luke Fickell is. He's damn sure not the coach that Dave Aranda is. He's not the coach that incoming BYU that are incoming into the conference. Kalani Sitake, way better coach. Okay. Gus Malzahn at Central Florida, who's coming in. Hell, I don't even think you're better than the guy Dana Holgerson down at Houston. You're not better than them. So how exactly are you now going to be ruling the roost when Texas and Oklahoma leave? You're not. It's all just bluster and crap. And this season, they started off playing cream puff you week after week after week. We're going to find out what you're really about now, because you get to go into Baylor this weekend you're going to go into their house and play against a defense that is nasty. And now your defense isn't. Ever since you lost, hey, look, the best chance you had of winning anything was a year ago. It was a year ago. I'm sorry, I'm not one of those guys that believes a whole lot in Spencer Sanders. I think that 4 interception game in the conference title game was indicative of who he is. It just is, without, and then you turn around and you lose. I'm sorry. You lose your defensive coordinator, Jim Knowles, to Ohio State. Their defense is getting it turned around, and now yours is giving up. What'd you give up? 40-something to Central Michigan in the opener. You gave up some more to Arizona State, who's already had to fire their coach. You know what I mean? What a deal! What a deal! Listen, as an Oklahoma fan, I mean, obviously I'm coming at it from that angle, but I got to tell you, I think that I hate it that this series isn't going to continue. I think that for the state of Oklahoma, that's a moneymaker in and of itself every year. I think that, it's a big deal for people in this state, and I don't think that it's right for you to make excuses to not I think it's the wrong thing to do to freaking, not have this game. I just think it's wrong. And you're given an excuse, and it's an excuse because what exactly are you talking about? I mean, just listen to what he says. It presents logistical issues under the program's current scheduling structures. Could you be more freaking vague and full of shit in saying those words? Those are the words that you choose. I mean, to give us what's so bad about the logistics? What logistically hurts you in your current scheduling, your non-conference scheduling? What's so hard about that? It's silly talk. It's silly talk, man. In other words, they just don't want to play. They don't want to play them. And I think Gundy's been signaling that for a while. He was doing it last year too. They don't want to play Oklahoma anymore. They don't. So that's why it's not going to happen, folks. I think it's ridiculous myself. But listen, tell us what you think. I want to hear this, and I'm sure I'll hear plenty from you Oklahoma State fans. I don't care. Believe me, when you come in and you do this and you start attacking, believe me, I will come back. I do not care. I do not care. And I believe that you're just scared of losing. And if not, tell your coach to prove us wrong. Okay? Tell your coach to prove us wrong. But hey, let us know what you think in the comments. You can jump on in the comments. In fact, if you're listening to us on just an audio podcast, you can even just go and leave a voice message for us right on anchor.fm. They have a spot where you can leave us a voice message. So you can say whatever you want. If you go far enough with it, that it's too much, then I can't play it. But don't think that I won't put it online or on, in there if you keep it within. I mean, I'm not saying you can't say a cuss word at all. I'm just saying because I'm going to say cuss words. But if you get too far ahead of yourself, then obviously we can't be putting that in. Now, tell us what you think, though. Let us know on Twitter, BirdieManDub on Twitter, @BirdieManDub, or you can go just leave us an email at soundoff@hofmedia.us. That's soundoff@hofmedia.us. Hey, folks, if you are a fantasy football player, do not forget to go on to TikTok and check out the latest from Bryce Pinson, my co-host for the show, and the fantasy sports champion of the freaking world. This guy is the man. Okay. This is a fantasy football cheat code. If you're not following him on TikTok right now and you're a fantasy football player, I got to ask you what the hell you're doing, because this guy, it's a cheat sheet. There's really no other way to put it. It's a cheat code. The guy knows this stuff. He sees moves weeks ahead of when you should make them. Weeks. This is the guy that, for you fantasy football nerds, you should be looking to this guy to help you week to week. He had the info about Cam Akers before the start of the season, telling everybody, trade him now, trade him now, trade him now, while he has value. Everybody thought he was going to be the starter. Turns out he doesn't start the game. He ends up getting one carry, and he got beat to death in those 2 days after he put that post up on TikTok. He got beat to death by people in the comments. What happens? He gets one carry in the game. Now his trade value, nothing. He had it right. He also had it right about Josh Jacobs. He's had it right about listen, it's on and on and on with this guy. On and on and on. Right? Then Zach Ertz, that same week, Zach Ertz's mom told him about Zach was going to play. It was a question whether he would or not because he'd been injured. His mom tells him about it. He releases that information 5 hours prior to Adam Schefter putting it out there. Everybody thought he was full of crap until Schefter said so as well. The guy knows what he's talking about. Don't ask me how he finds this stuff out. I don't know. All I can tell you is I listen to him. If I'm playing fantasy football, I just hand him the roster. Period. Done. End of discussion. I like my money. Okay? I like my money. Also, on Friday, we will be having our weekly college football betting picks, our best seven, known as the front seven. That will be myself, Bryce, and producer Tanya Leachman. So don't forget to get on there and check that one out Friday mornings, every Friday morning, right here on the Hall of Fame College Football Podcast. Coming up, so Texas Tech is fined $50,000 for its fans rushing the field following the Red Raiders win over Texas on Saturday. We'll get right to that right after this break. Hey, everybody. Jason Watkins, Hall of Fame College Football Podcast. Just wanted to remind you that the next time you want to go on Fanatics and get your gear, make sure you go onto our website first. That's hofmedia.us/fanatics. 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 You go on there, you can click the little button. It's a little blue Fanatics logo at the bottom. You're going to help. We're going to get a little small commission. You help us keep putting out content for you week after week. We enjoy doing it for you. We need a little help. We want to make sure that you can get your love too. I got a bunch of nice shirts in from Fanatics myself this week. So, I know everybody's going there. They've got, Fanatics, this is the big company. They have more, these guys have more merchandise for your team, and no matter what your team is or what sport they're playing, you're going to find it on Fanatics every time. Okay, go on there, check them out. Great deals all the time just for using our link to go on there. All you have to do is click and shop as usual. You don't need a promo code. If you do, it'll be already on the screen for you there. They give it to you when you get there. So help us out. We'd appreciate it. Welcome back to the Hall of Fame College Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Watkins, and we are back from our break here talking about Texas Tech, fined by the Big 12 this week, $50,000 for fans rushing the field after the Red Raiders' overtime victory over Texas. Listen, first of all, let me just say this. I don't understand all this field rushing stuff and how it even happens. Now, don't get me wrong. There's more fans than any amount of cops can probably do anything about. But Tech fans, this is not a team that you should be rushing the field over. Texas hasn't won a Big 12 championship game in 12 years. 12 years since they won the conference. And granted, I know that you have sucked too. I get it. Ever since Leach left, you're not that good. And or Leach was fired, which was ridiculous. You hadn't been that good. So I understand. But look, this is not a team that I would be wanting to rush the field over. And honestly, folks, this has got to stop. This is not something, this is an unsafe practice to do that. You cannot be putting these athletes in jeopardy. And when I say in jeopardy, it happens because you have idiots like the one I'm about to show you here doing shit like this. Look, I am not a Texas fan. I think that this is pretty clear that I'm not a Texas fan. But, folks, This is not okay. I want you to take a look at this. This is after. This is some on-field video. Look right there. Boom. Yeah, just going to continue. We'll go again a couple of times. All right, look at here. So this Texas player walking off the field, this guy comes right in behind him, shoves him, and then runs away, probably to his parents' basement or something. What a chump. You know, look, it's unsafe. First off, this practice is just flat out unsafe, okay? It needs to stop. It needs to stop. Stop doing this. And if you're rushing the field, every one of those people should now be banned from being able to come to games anymore, because you're putting players at risk. We're not allowed to be on the floor, folks. We're not allowed to be on the field. And somebody who rushes onto the field during the game and streaks or something, you know, innocuous that isn't going to hurt anybody necessarily, they don't ever let them come back to games. This should stop as well. As long as there are players on the field that can get hurt, knock this shit off. Stop doing it. And Tech fans, I don't see the point in this anyway. You didn't just beat Alabama. You didn't even just beat Oklahoma, who you never beat. You beat freaking Texas. Whoop-de-doo. Everybody beats Texas nowadays. I know that they're a better team this year. They should be a better team. We're going to find out where they're at. But for God's sakes, they haven't won anything in a long time. They haven't won anything in a long time. I know they beat you more times than not, but this is not a good look for you, Texas Tech, and what you're trying to do. If this program wants to be considered and taken seriously, then you can't be this excited over beating a team that hadn't won a conference championship in 12 years, okay? And on top of that, it's not good for the players or safe for the players, because you have idiots like this guy who go and do something stupid like that. Stupid like that. I hope somebody found out who that kid was and kicks his little ass. That's ridiculous, okay? Absolutely ridiculous. You know? He didn't square up with the guy or anything like that. He could attack him from behind, and you could have injured the kid. You could have injured the player. It's not a good move, man. Not a good look. And so knock that off. I don't want to see that anymore. All right. Just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. Okay, so next up here. Hey, listen, folks, tell us what you think about that. Is storming the field, is this not an antiquated deal? Am I wrong about this? That kids should be doing this, or anybody should be doing this after a big win? You know, I just talked about Oklahoma State did it after the Bedlam win last year. Of course, you know, beating Oklahoma is a big deal to them. They haven't done it in a long time. So, I mean, but is that something that should be going on? Let us know in the comments. Let us know on Twitter. Birdieman Dub on Twitter. You can also talk to Bryce on there. It's Pinson_Bryce at Pinson_Bryce on Twitter. You can also send us an email to soundoff@hofmedia.us. That's soundoff@hofmedia.us. You can also just go ahead and hit us right here in the comments on the video on YouTube, or we even have a place where you can leave us a voice message on anchor.fm as well. Next up on today's show, Sonny Dykes, the new head coach at TCU, son of former Texas Tech coach Spike Dykes. His new team at TCU, he takes them into his former team at SMU, gets a big win. They win. Let's see. Sorry. Max Duggan, it was 22 of 29 for 278 yards and 3 touchdowns as TCU goes in and gets a 42-34 victory over SMU in Dallas, beating that was actually snapping a 2-game losing streak in the series, of course, to Sonny Dykes, who was the coach a year ago for the Ponies. It's a big win, and obviously TCU has come out there now 4-0 on the season as well. going to play host to Oklahoma this weekend. Probably a pretty pissed off Oklahoma team. We're going to find out really quick just how good these frogs are, because they've got probably an angry group of Sooners coming into town. At least they do get them at home. We'll find out just how ready they are. But this is a big win, and I think it signaled that Sonny is a pretty dang good coach. I mean, to be able to go in and beat the likes of Gary Patterson the last 2 years, that was a big deal. It kind of surprised me whenever he took the job after the way that all that went down. There was a big kind of scuffle and stuff at the end of the game. Had a coach that got hurt in all of that, which is another reason that we have to talk about. Look, man, not just coaches. You've got players, coaches, everybody else that don't be rushing the field, folks. Stop doing that. This didn't have anything to do with anybody rushing the field. This was players fighting, teams fighting each other. Turns out that it was TCU that had started the fight, even though Patterson had accused players from SMU starting it. Turns out you get the video evidence, and it was TCU players that started it all. A TCU coach got hurt in it, which is what caused the biggest issue. But Patterson ended up having to apologize. It really signaled the end of his career at TCU as the head coach, even after the amazing record that he had established at the school. He is now a special defensive coach at Texas. But a big win for Sonny. I think that he's been kind of showing over the last few years. He did really well at Cal. You know, he was the coach at Cal whenever Jared Goff came out, got selected number 1. He's been doing a good job since he took over for June Jones at SMU, and then now starting off 4-0 at TCU in the Big 12, getting his first win a week ago. It wasn't a conference win, obviously, with SMU, so it's their conference opener for TCU this week. They are now 4-0, though. Don't forget to check out TikTok for my Heisman top 5 on Wednesday. That will be out on Wednesday. I pick my top 5 for the Heisman every week. Look, a guy like, we're going to talk about him here in just a second, but and we're finally going to end the show this week with the last couple of things. Look, you had Kansas, who was expected to not maybe win 2 games this season. The over-under in Vegas was 1.5. They are now on Lance Leipold has done wonders there in Lawrence. They are 4-0 on the season. They've got wins over. They got a win over West Virginia. They just took out Duke a week ago. Big win there. And they went to Houston, and that was a preseason top 25 team, and beat on Dana Holgerson's Cougars pretty much from start to finish. The game was never really in jeopardy. They even had Houston players so upset that they were fighting each other on the sidelines over what was going on in that. Jaylen Daniels, man, where did this kid come from? He goes out and has the surprise of the country, man. 35-27 win over Duke a week ago. He has 324 yards, 4 touchdowns through the air, adds 83 yards and another score on the ground. That is 324 yards, 4 passing touchdowns, adds another touchdown on the ground, 5 total touchdowns, and over 400 total yards in that win over Duke. He has established himself as a Heisman contender now, folks. I don't care what anybody says. He's going into my top 5 now. He was already in the top 10. Obviously, it's Duke, and we're going to find out what he's all about as they open up conference play. But and they've got a conference win over West Virginia in week 2. But listen, folks, this is a real deal team. This is a team that a year ago won 2 games. One of them was over Texas. I love saying that. That's funny. One of them was over Texas, but this is a real team. Lance Leipold has obviously proven what he is about as a head coach. To go into a place that, they haven't started 4-0 since 2009. Okay, 2009. Probably the last time they were even good. was 2009. They've gone through coaches that you would have expected to do pretty well. Les Miles was recently fired. It was basically over stuff that happened while he was at LSU. He wasn't able to really get it turned either. Charlie Weiss went there after the Notre Dame deal. Didn't work out for him either. It's just been coach after coach. They're just not getting it done. But all of a sudden, you get a guy like Lance Leipold. I thought it was the worst decision ever for him to take that job. He's proven me wrong. This guy is the real deal. Now they got to worry about whether they might lose into Nebraska, because when you start off 4-0 and you're not supposed to win but maybe 2 games all year, it's a pretty big deal, man. It's a pretty big deal. So good for these guys. Let's see, who do they got this week? Let's see. Going back to that. Yeah, big deal for these guys, though. I mean, what a way to go if you're Kansas, and to be able to go in and get a big win like they had at Houston the week before. I mean, the Duke game may not mean a whole lot to most people, but they were actually 3-0 coming in as well. But if you don't think that was a big win to go to Houston, and they were a preseason top 25 team, what are we talking about? Because to me, it was a big deal. So week 5 coming up, you've got let's just go through the entire Big 12 schedule. You've got number 18 Oklahoma. They dropped 12 spots in the rankings this week. Going into TCU to play at Ammon G. Carter Stadium in Fort Worth to take on the Horned Frogs. Texas Tech goes on the road. We're going to find out what they're about this week too. They go on the road to Kansas State, who comes in now at number 25 in the rankings after their win a week ago. The big game of the week for the Big 12 at 1:30 on Fox this week. You've got Oklahoma State, number 9 in the country, coming into Waco to take on the number 16 Bears. That one starts at 1:30 again, as I said, at McLean Stadium in Waco on Fox. Also, you probably wouldn't have expected this to be a big game coming into the season. But Iowa State, coming fresh off that loss to Baylor at home, they have to now go to Lawrence to face the undefeated Kansas Jayhawks. This will be the game that lets you know what Kansas is really about. Iowa State is going to play defense. Iowa State has a good quarterback in Hunter Deckers. They're going to always have a good running game. They have a hell of a head coach. If Kansas is able to win this game and they're not ranked at that point, there's a problem. I feel like Iowa State should be ranked now. They're not. But I think that Kansas should have been ranked after their wins the last 2 weeks. Being 4-0, nobody expected anything out of them. I think that the AP poll is trash, just like most of the polls. But you can tell that these guys aren't watching football. And then obviously it's a big game down in Austin too. If you believe what you're hearing about Steve Sarkisian, as West Virginia shows up 5:30 p.m. on FS1. That will be the Texas Longhorns playing host to the Mountaineers of West Virginia. Both teams coming in at 2-2, 0-1 in the Big 12. So listen, don't forget to check out my top 5 for the Heisman after 4 weeks. I'm not going to let you know who it is. That'll be on TikTok though. Our TikTok it's tiktok.com at HOFCF That's tiktok.com/HOFCF So check that out. And also, I'm not going to tell you, this is too much for me to remember, but Tanya, our producer Tanya, is also on TikTok. She's got some funny videos about different stuff, a lot of it about college football and about the show. So make sure that you're following her as well if you want to get a good chuckle. She's amazing on there. She's doing an amazing job for us. We want to just tell her. And she went 5-2 in the picks last week. Don't forget about those as well. Coming up on Friday morning, you will get the pick show, our front 7 best bets for the college football week 5. Don't forget about that as well. And listen, if you want to support the show and all the content that we're bringing you week to week, All you got to do is when you are shopping for your team's gear anyway on Fanatics, just go to our website first, hofmedia.us/fanatics. That's hofmedia.us/fanatics. Go to the bottom of the page, click the Fanatics logo. It'll take you right to the store. You shop as usual. We will get a small commission for anything you purchase by going through that link. Now, if you would, and listen, you can do it just that way. Go right there to that one. Just hit that button and you're there. And you don't have to do another thing. If you would like to become part of our mailing list, we would appreciate that. We will send you deals that we get from Fanatics and some of our other partners as they come up. And not to mention show notes, things like that, things that you can do, ways that you can interact with us, through our email list. We're not going to spam you out with a bunch of crap if you want to become a member of our email list, but you will become a official partner of the show, and you will get first dibs on pretty much anything we're doing. You will know about it first, all shows, everything we're doing, and it'll give you opportunity to see some of our exclusive stuff that we're doing over on Patreon as well, which you can always check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/HOF All right, guys. So this is how we're going to finish the show today. I have decided to do kind of a weekly troll. It's just something. I mean, I like to pick at people a little bit, just a little bit. But we're gonna go back to Lubbock today. We've been in Lubbock a lot. But just wanted you to kind of get a chance to listen to what our boy Joey McGuire had to say following his team's win.
It's going to be when we came out of half, we had 2 more rounds to fight, and you did. Did. Said it's going to be when we came out of half, we had 2 more rounds to fight, and you did. I told you they were going to break, and they did. Yes, sir. I told you they were going to break, and did. The reporter asked me at the end, says, what's it mean to win this game and beat Texas? I said, it doesn't mean anything to beat Texas. We're 1-0 in the Big 12. Yeah. That's what it means. I'm telling y'all right now, the country's going to find out. Everything runs through Lubbock. Everything runs through Lubbock. Hey, we're the team to beat if we keep practicing to get better, if we keep practicing to be better players, if we keep playing and fighting for each other, and no matter what happens, we just say, what's next? That's all we do. Because at any point in that game, you could have quit, but you didn't, because you are built different. And the more and more you believe that, the more and more this happens. Somebody turn on some damn music!
This part, the look right there. And you know what? This part of it was unintended. I just recorded the screen there. So that last part was unintended, but the look on her face is very fitting for how I felt after watching that. Joey. He did get the one part right when he was like, man, it doesn't mean much to beat Texas. And tell your fans that, man. Tell your fans that. Because they're the ones that are over there rushing the freaking field. But look, team to beat, huh? Everything runs through Lubbock. Are you sure? Everything runs through Lubbock? I hope that that's what you're saying after you get out of Manhattan this weekend. So, yeah, be excited about your team wins. And, hey, make sure you keep practicing. Keep practicing, Tech. Keep practicing. That's the way to do it. I love videos like this. And look, man, honestly, I think that this guy's a heck of a coach. I think that he obviously comes from an amazing program. He won multiple state titles as a high school coach in Texas, and then worked with Coach Aranda at Baylor the last few years. I think that he's the real deal as a coach. So maybe this is a step in the right direction as far as Tech's concerned. Again, you guys are just one of those teams that I really don't consider because you never do anything. Sorry. That's how it is. But hey, folks, I hope everybody enjoyed the show. We'll be back here. Check us out this week. We've got the Front Seven coming up on Friday, along with the Under the Radar High School Football Phenom show later that day on Friday. And then check out Bryce on TikTok. He's doing some lives coming up pretty soon with his for the and they're on TikTok doing live shows where you can get in there, ask some questions, do some stuff like that. He's already gotten over his 1,000 followers. He did that in a matter of days. But folks, we need to get to our 1,000 followers too. So please, please, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, help us out. It's a big way to help this show continue to go on. Another way to support us, as I said, you can get onto Fanatics, buy the team gear that you're going to buy anyway, hofmedia.us/fanatics. Go on the page, click the button, just go shop as normal. We get a small commission. That helps us out a ton. We obviously, in order to put out all this content, just hitting that like button helps us out a ton, is putting us in front of more people and giving us a better chance to get more subscribers. So if there's anything you want to talk to us about, some more you want to see on the show, hit us up in the comments below, or through our email, man. HOF Media, it's soundoff@hofmedia.us, soundoff@hofmedia.us. And then definitely do not forget, let us know about some of these under the radar recruits. This is very important to us, very, very important to us, to help some of these guys that aren't getting looked at because they don't pay huge money and go to the camps that are put on by rivals in 247. That doesn't mean they can't play football at the next level. Okay. Help them out. Let us know. We are working on a database to make sure that we are showcasing these kids that aren't getting showcased where they should be on 247 rivals. Thanks a lot, guys. We appreciate it. Hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next one.